Guys, I wanted to take some time in this video to talk about the 1911 pistol. In particular, I wanted to take some time to talk about Kimber 1911 pistols. The reason that I wanted to do this is because I see online a lot of people talking about Kimber, and a lot of people want to be a little bit critical of them without actually understanding the 1911 in general and understanding Kimber in particular. I did another video on my channel a while back to where I talked about why it is important for a 1911 to be broken in. And that is one of the first things that a lot of folks do not understand about the 1911. It is something that most of the manufacturers have in their manuals where they tell you that it is important to break in your gun. There's a lot of folks out there that will talk about how that certain gun types, Nighthawks, some of these super expensive, super custom handguns do not require a break-in period, which again, I suggest that you look up Les Bear and you will find that is not the case. Many of these same manufacturers recommend a 1911 to be broken in as well. This is a discussion that's focusing more on Kimber than it does on a lot of other guns. Now, the first thing is that the 1911 is not a modern day design. There again, it goes back over 100 years by this time, but it is still one of the most copied designs on the planet. Okay, the 1911 has a reputation going back literally more than 100 years. Kimbers have been around, I believe, since the late 70s, and let me know down in the comments for sure, but this is a manufacturer that started out as a custom 1911 manufacturer. There again, they did a lot of what most of the custom shops did. It was basically they would build them just one at a time and hand fitting everything, and then they grew and moved more into production, where they would actually manufacture these guns using modern production technologies and things like that to increase their output. But they wanted to retain as much of that quality, as much of that fine fit that they could. Now, Kimber did go through a brief period to where they had some, I guess you could say, quality control concerns, where guns were getting through their quality control that did not necessarily live up to the Kimber reputation. Okay, Kimbers are one of the things you always hear people talk about. They basically want to try to say that these guns are unreliable. That is incorrect. Okay, a 1911 is one, as I mentioned before, that must be broken in. If you're going to trust your life to any firearm, you need to get it to the gun range and you need to shoot that gun. That is particularly true when it comes to a 1911. These guns are a very well-made gun. They are a beautiful looking gun. Here we have my Kimber Custom 2 1911, and it is the two-tone finish. It has the stainless and then the black. It is an absolutely gorgeous gun, and I'm glad to have it. You can see the rosewood grips, and these things absolutely are gorgeous. Kimber is, again, a manufacturer that builds very fine guns, but like all 1911s, they must be broken in. My 1911s, these that you see in front of you, of course, this is my Kimber Custom 2. This is my Kimber Raptor. You can see this as another gorgeous gun. This is more of the commander length. So let's just go ahead and lock these actions on all of these open because there's something that I want to show you. This is my Kimber Hero, another absolutely gorgeous gun. A lot of detail in this gun. You can see it here as far as some of the things that are on it. American flag, does have fiber optic sights, and so on. This is probably the tightest fitting of all of my Kimbers. Okay, this is the only one of these three where I actually have to use a tool to remove that barrel bushing because it is so tight. But at the same time, it is also a very reliable gun. All three of these guns are very reliable. When I first got them, yes, I had a couple of hiccups when I would shoot them. But if you read in the Kimber manual, they will tell you that the 1911 needs a little bit of breaking in. I want to show you what it does. You can see here on my gun, my Kimber Custom 2, I want you to notice the way that we have, it looks like basically a fine polishing on the slide. Okay, this is where this gun has been shot. It is where basically with the metal running together, the gun has been smoothing itself out, and that's something that a lot of people fail to realize. You pick up a Kimber 1911 and then you pick up some of these others out there like T-Sauce, which T-Sauce are a great 1911. I love those guns as well, as many of you guys that are followers of my channel know. There is a noticeable difference in how tight the action is. Okay, a lot of these guns, T-Sauce has a good tight action, but it is not as tight as a Kimber. There is no give, no rattle, no rocking in this gun. It is extremely solid, and that is why you must have just a little bit of a break-in period with a gun when you have these tight of tolerances. Okay, when they machine these guns, there's always going to be a lot of, you know, micro abrasions and stuff like that from the machining process that are going to affect how the gun runs early on. When you shoot it, when you are running that gun, even cycling that action repeatedly is going to make that smooth out a little more. Personally, me, I prefer just shooting them. You know, why do you buy these guns if you're not going to shoot them? Okay, but you can smooth that action out over time simply by taking it out to the range and using it for what you bought it for and shooting it. Each of these guns have been shot. They have a decent round count through them. I'm not going to say that they are the highest round counts, but they are a decent round count, and they are to the point that they have been showing themselves to be very reliable. Just to show you here, my Raptor, let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit without losing focus. I want to show you this. This is what I'm talking about. When this gun was first made, and it is true with all of these guns, when they put the finish on these guns, they finished everything. You know, that finish covered everything. But as this gun has ran, you can see that it has worn off a lot of that finish that was originally put on here. And that is another point as far as when you breaking these guns in, you are going to actually wear down some of that finish. Okay, it's just a proven thing, guys. It's just part of the process. That is with my Raptor. Let's go ahead and look at my Kimber Hero, and just to zoom back in on it, and you can see it is the same. Okay, you can see it there. Now this one, my Kimber Hero, it does not have as much wear compared to my Raptor, and that is because this gun does not have a high or as high of a round count as my Raptor. Okay, this probably has the least amount of rounds through it. You know, this is more of a barbecue gun, I guess you could say, just because of how it looks. And yes, there is a little bit of oil on this gun. I keep it wet. That's just something that I do. It's not necessary, but it's just a little extra something that I do. But that is one of the complaints that a lot of folks have, as far as, you know, with these guns, the tightness of them. They think that these guns should come right out of the box and never have a hiccup. That's not going to happen in a gun that is this tight of tolerances. Okay, that's just not going to happen. Again, looking at my Raptor, you can see there, guys, you know, much more polish on this. And I have actually carried this gun. You know, this gun is one that I have carried. You know, not out in public or anything, but sometimes you go somewhere nice, you want to carry a nice gun, good barbecue gun, and this is one of them. In fact, any of these three make a great barbecue gun. And again, guys, open up the action on my Kimber Custom 2, and it is the same thing. You can see that polish that has happened on that slide, and it is where those parts are working together, where they are smoothing themselves out, burnishing it, basically. If you guys are familiar with like leather working and things like that, you're basically burnishing the parts together to make them fit smoothly. Now, that is one of the aspects of why it is important to break in a 1911, but particularly the Kimbers, because these guns, I'm telling you, those actions are just super tight. Okay, you're not going to find, in my personal opinion, just a few manufacturers out there that are going to manufacture a 1911 to these tight of specs and do as good of a job as what Kimber has done. I know there's some others out there. Dan Wesson does a great job, as well as a couple of others, but for the price range and things like that, these just are amazing, and plus they are just an absolutely gorgeous looking gun. Now, the thing about any 1911 or any semi-automatic handgun that everyone needs to remember is the magazines. Okay, this is one criticism that I will have to give to everyone as far as what Kimber does. The magazines that they use, that they send with their guns, they give you just one, and these are not the best magazine on the market. Okay, you can literally take a brand new Kimber and put a better magazine in it, and right off the bat you're going to have a much better experience with that gun. Not all of the magazines are bad, but if, you know, the times that I have had an issue with any of these, shooting them, even when they had virtually no rounds through them, this was the problem. You know, this magazine, the factory magazine, using a good magazine with those, I've never really had any issues, even with defensive loads. Okay, so that is something to remember as well. But the magazine in any semi-automatic, particularly a Kimber or any 1911, is crucial. Okay, if you do not have a good magazine, you are not going to have a reliable gun. Just take a minute here to look at this beauty. You know, I do have a little bit of oil there, but no big deal. I'm just going to wipe it down. And this is just a gorgeous gun. You know, Kimbers make some absolutely beautiful guns. You know, those G10 grips that we see there. I know that some people will criticize them also on some of their models. They only have the safety on one side. You know, that is something that you can upgrade if you are a lefty. Another criticism that people have of Kimber, which, you know, I will kind of go along with it, I guess you could say, and that is Kimber does use some MEM parts, metal injection molding. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of your guns out there from a lot of your major manufacturers that you never hear anyone complain about all use MEM parts. Kimber, I would like to see them move away from the MEM parts, but at the same time, the parts that they do use that are MEM are not necessarily as critical as other components. You know, you do have, I guess you could say, that base of people, I guess me being included, I would prefer having a forged part, all forged components, and I really give it to TSOS on what they're doing with their 1911s for doing that. They've switched over, all of their parts are forged, but at the same time, you know, a Kimber is still an absolutely amazing gun, and it is one that you don't need to turn your nose up at. That if you do like Kimber, just remember when you get that gun, you need to break it in. Okay, you need to get it to the range. You need to get that round count through that gun and enjoy it. You know, they're a lot of fun. They're absolutely great looking guns, and they can be reliable enough to carry as long as you have a good magazine and you have put the round count with your carry ammo through them to know that they are going to serve you when you need it. But anyways, guys, that's just a few of my thoughts. Let me know yours down below. What are your thoughts on Kimbers? What are your thoughts on 1911s in general? I'd appreciate it if you would let me know. Leave me a comment down below. Also, guys, check out my website at boomsticktacticalgear.com. You can support the channel by picking you up some cool shirts or other merchandise over there. Also, I want to take a minute to give a shout out to all of my channel members. Thanks, guys, for everything that you do, for your continued support. Anyone that wants to become a channel member, go over to my main page and you can join there. Guys, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Subscribe, leave me a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.